Welcome back to the Dividend Diplomats YouTube channel. You've got Bert and Lanny, your favorite dividend investors out here. And thank you for being here on a nice Sunday morning. There's no other place you'd rather be than with your dividend broskies here, guys. And we're going to talk about 19 dividend increases, a little status, a little, update on the dividend stock portfolio, to talk about what's been the average growth rate, not doing a weighted average, and what's been the average yield of those companies that did increase their dividends so far this year, and just really talking about how we think about it.
Smash that subscribe button, everyone. Give this video a thumbs up. Let's freaking go. We are always monitoring these dividend increases. We are watching them like a hawk just to make sure that our income is growing how we are expecting it to. And Lanny always has these metrics that he's going through. Obviously, we both are as we're tracking our income. We're trying to reach financial freedom together. But Lanny, who's talked about it recently, I think it was a month ago, on his journey to $50,000 income, how is he going to close the gap? He has eagle eyes on dividend growth in particular, because that's one of the big three levers he's going to pull to help him get there.
Oh yeah, you got to have dividend growth to keep that passive income growing. And I'm really going to count on it once my investing at some point slows down or stops. You're really going to need that growth.
Yeah.
And so we've got 19 stocks, guys. This is a little, again, a little status of the portfolio, a little interim update here on how many stocks. We got 19 stocks. I've got 19 individual ticker symbols, not ETFs, not mutual funds, that have increased their dividend, that have said, hey, despite what's going on in the macro economy, we're still increasing the dividend payout to you, the shareholders, which again increases our passive income stream. A little bit of a benchmark. My portfolio overall dividend yield is just a smidge above 3%. It's been hovering between 301 and like 313 most of this year. The average dividend growth rate from including ETFs is about 5.43%. Again, but that's also bringing in either increases that a company's had this year, and if they haven't increased it yet this year because they're in the second half of the year, then it's what their growth rate was last year included in that 5.43. So this is just increases in 2025. Again, non-ETFs as well, to not, again, specifically individual stocks.
Yeah, so we talked about it too here. The dividend growth factor is a stat metric that we typically will take a look at here. Take the yield plus, you take the dividend yield plus the dividend growth rate, and it spits out a number, and that combined factor gives you a metric to work towards. And what that helps you balance is your combination of lower yield, higher dividend growth rate, higher yield, lower dividend growth rate, or moderate dividend yield, moderate growth rate. It helps you kind of balance that and give you something to shoot towards as you're going through your portfolio.
That's right, guys. So, we'll do like kind of 5 stocks at a time. Then when we get to the end, we'll talk about what the average is and kind of maybe some observations from the list. Not in any order, but I'll take a quick 5, guys, and not to get confused with 5 guys burst. Again, how many increases have you guys experienced out there? How has your passive income been growing? Do you have 10, 5, 3, 2 stocks that have increased their dividend compared to the 19 we're about to go through? Let us know. First 5, though, PepsiCo leads, is the first on my list. Again, not in any order. 4.98% growth rate with a 4.38% yield. Not too bad right now. Obviously getting the benefit with Pepsi trade in the low 130s, juicing up that yield to well over 4%. First Energy has made the list this year. First Energy, ticker symbol FE. They had a 4.71% growth rate, almost very similar to Pepsi, 4.38% yield as well. So you got to like that combination for the big utility player in Akron, Ohio, baby. I'm just the kid from Akron. Third, Shell Oil, SHEL, 4.07% growth rate so far this year on the dividend. Pairing that up with a 4.21% yield. Can we break the 4% trend here? Well, Procter & Gamble kind of does. Number 4 here, PG, growth rate was 5.00%. So right there with a slower yield of 2.58%, guys. 5th, Kinder Morgan, KMI. Only a 1.74% dividend increase, but the yield is 4.16%. So back there, guys, back at the 4.16% with KMI. So that's the five quick stocks right now. Bert's also going to go through the next five as well.
Okay, let's go through them. IBM, ticker symbol IBM, growth rate 0.6% with a yield at 2.5%, which is crazy considering how much IBM has appreciated that yield has dropped well below 3%, Lanny. Number 7 on this, it's crazy. Number 7 is Johnson & Johnson, ticker symbol J&J, Dividend King, one of my favorites, old, reliable, growth rate of 4.84% with a yield of 3.35%. Not bad. Number 8, Archer Daniels Midland, ticker symbol ADM. Growth rate of 2% is well below that 10% growth rate last year that was announced after an accounting scandal. Their current yield is 4.30% as ADM continues to trade below $50 per share. Number 9, T. Rowe Price, ticker symbol T. Rowe. Growth rate 2.42% with a yield of 5.39%. That is the highest dividend yield that we've had so far on this list.
Wow.
Yeah. Number 10, we're going to flip this around. Granger, ticker symbol GWW with a 10.24% dividend growth rate and a 0.83% dividend yield. But that's not the story for Granger. You look at that stock chart and that tells you what the story is.
I'll tell you what, first stock above 10% on the growth rate and first stock below 1% on the yield so far on this list at number 10 with Granger. All right, let's go to the next 5, and then Bert will wrap it up here. 11, Cisco, CSCO, 2.5% growth rate with a 2.5% yield. Come on, Cisco. That's brutal. Next, UPS or United Parcel Service, 0.61% growth rate with a 6.68% yield. So definitely making up as much as you can for it on the yield front. Next, Lyondell Basel, LYB, 2.24% growth rate. They still nudged it up with a current 9.69% dividend yield. Oh my goodness. Brace yourself. 14 is General Dynamics, GD, 5.63% growth rate with a 2.17% yield right there. And then 15, Eaton Corp, ticker symbol ETN, a 10.64% growth rate with a 1.26% dividend yield.
Cleveland delivering, baby. Number 16, Orrstown Bank, ticker symbol ORRF, a small community bank in Pennsylvania, 13.04% dividend growth rate with a 3.41% yield. Sheesh. Number 17, Elevance Health, ticker symbol ELV, the sector that's gotten beaten down more than anything this year. The 4.91% dividend growth rate and a 1.74% dividend yield.
Hey, UNH came in with an over 5% increase.
Oh, did they? I must have missed that. Was that today that came in? All right. Okay, UNH. All right. Jackson, financial ticker symbol JXN, 14.29% growth rate with a 3.83% yield. Last but definitely not least, eBay, ticker symbol eBay, with a 7.41% growth rate and a 1.48% dividend yield.
19 stocks right there, guys. Now, again, we're using the dividend yield as of June 6th here, guys, to finish off the week. Some big notables there. Obviously, IBM being the drag between them and Cisco, honestly, are the two lowest dividend yield, dividend growth. Both are below that 5% threshold when you add in yield plus growth. But Bert, I said that my average growth rate in my portfolio was about 5.4%, and then my overall dividend yield was just north of 3%. So if you just average the growth rates and average the yields, what is that looking like right now with these 19 stocks?
Okay, so for the average growth rate for these 19 stocks, it's 5.36% average growth rate, which is right in line with your portfolio growth rate of 5.4%. But you're picking up some yield here with these 19, where the yield is 3.62% for the average 19, which is above that 3% for your portfolio.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm giving up a little bit on the growth rate, it looks like, with these first 19 stocks this year. But I'm definitely making up for it on the dividend yield with these 19 stocks.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I was just looking at this, Lanny, as we were going through it. How many of the stocks individually are beating your portfolio right now with that? Or I mean, are beating that 9% threshold that you like to typically follow with it? From that list, 7 of the 19 stocks have a growth rate and a yield greater than 9%. And obviously, that would
eBay was right there.
yeah, a few were close. So it seems like a few are carrying it, especially when you look at Jackson, Orrstown, and Eaton. But that's why you have a diversified portfolio. That's the other side of this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, many different industries there when you think about it too. You've got consumer snacks, oil, utility, asset management, industrials in here, chemical. I mean, you think about the overall.
It's
This is like a portfolio right here.
yeah, it's a diversified portfolio, so it's pretty solid. Sorry for yawning, everyone.
I'll have to do my annual reconstitution and rebalancing.
And your quarterly check-in on it too.
Yeah. But so, overall, yeah, I feel pretty, this is the goal is to get to where every stock that I have in the portfolio outside of SoFi stock essentially increases their dividend. And the overall goal is to be at or above that 9%. And it's crazy to think that the way I've gotten rid of some of these stocks, again, we've gotten rid of stocks that pay a dividend. We've gotten rid of stocks that don't pay a dividend, but all that is helping the overall portfolio. But the ones that I've kept, here on average, I'm looking at about 9%. Like
Yeah.
how that just ends up being is just something unreal.
Well, it's the law of averages, right? It works back to the average of what you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean when I look at it,
Well, that's why you
obviously,
take a thoughtful approach when you're getting rid of the stocks too. You're not just throwing it into something that's not going to meet the metrics you want.
right. Usually it's like, okay, dividend yield, do you pay a dividend? Dividend growth, are you paying me more every year? And then it's like, okay, how does the overall return look like? I think, obviously that's where like IBM is a great example of that, right? Where,
Mhm.
hey, in the last year they're up 60%. So, they're giving me, a something to like hang on to, like, oh yeah, like they're actually doing something.
Yeah.
You know, the really interesting one, not that they're a bad stock, because they're actually doing well, this year up 12% is Cisco, and they're up 38% since last year. So they're actually like churning some returns right now. Surprisingly, and let me stand corrected. They're up 43% since last year.
Cisco was in a little bit of a slumber for a very long period of time, and then this year they kind of snapped out of it. They snapped out of that funk.
Yeah. So it's, again, that could be with the, again, software security, AI, all that storage as
Yeah.
well for it. So they could be benefiting indirectly from that. But overall, yeah, I feel pretty good about the list right now. No immediate sells, and it gives me a good list to always keep an eye on for which ones I'd want to add to.
Yeah. So everyone, let us know, what do you think here of Lanny's list? Which one are your favorite of the 19? How many of these 19 stocks do you own in your portfolio? And I guess another question, what is your overall portfolio growth rate and current dividend yield too? We'd love to hear that.
And we'll do our best to throw some screenshots throughout the video. Obviously of all the 19 stocks, from the chart standpoint. But yeah, let us know what you're buying right now that gets you well above a 9% overall dividend compound factor, which we say is the yield plus growth. Let us know what your favorite stocks are buying, that you're buying at your threshold right now below in the comments.
If you don't already, subscribe to that channel. Give this video a thumbs up. And remember, you're either with us or you're against us, Jack.
And that was Bert and Lanny from the Dividend Diplomats. Over and out.